Listen, is it like truly warm outside yet? No. But you know, it's basically March, and there is truly nothing else to look forward to about this cold, dreary season. So, with the power of delusion, I am ready to prepare for spring. And this week, I am so excited to discuss the fashion I'm loving for this spring season, including styles I've already been getting into lately, and some of the styles I'm most looking forward to wearing in the next couple months. Some of these things are definitely already larger trends. Others are just things I am particularly into. Although, I am always saying this, whenever I'm feeling particularly excited and inspired by something in fashion, it frequently turns out that a lot of other people are too. And I don't know if we're all being subliminally influenced, or if we're all just naturally drawn to certain things at particular moments in history and culture. But the point is, it's possible that all of these things are rising trends. Mostly though, I'm just excited to talk about some things I'm particularly inspired by right now in fashion. So let's just get into it. Okay, this first look is something I did not really expect to find myself drawn to, but I'm finding myself so inspired by it for this spring. It is miniskirts. For a long time, I have very rarely worn miniskirts and not really considered them that much as an option. But recently, I have found myself more and more drawn to them. I've been saving more style inspo with miniskirts. I've been coming up with more outfit ideas myself in my own wardrobe using miniskirts. These just feel like something I was sort of skipping over in my closet and my style for such a long time. And now there's been a shift, and I have a renewed appreciation of miniskirts as a style asset. I'm not really sure what inspired this. I think miniskirts feel quite playful and whimsical, which is a theme for a lot of the other looks we're talking about in this video. So maybe I'm just leaning towards a playful whimsicality for this spring, especially because the miniskirts I'm feeling the most drawn to are more like flared and flouncy and flowy, and that flared, flowy flounciness feels particularly playful and whimsical. It could also just be that I've been wearing almost exclusively long skirts for so long. Maybe I'm just finally ready for some novelty with a shorter skirt. Or maybe I'm just sick of the Wisconsin cold after this winter, and I'm extra excited for it to be warm out. I don't really know, but whatever it is, my enthusiasm for miniskirts is really refreshed at the moment. I mean, I feel like it's kind of funny to shout out miniskirts as like a style I'm excited about, because obviously they're ever present in fashion. They're never like out. I've always thought they looked great, but I just haven't personally been as drawn to them for my style over the past several years. So my renewed excitement about them feels noteworthy for me and my style. I also just want to note, I did say in last week's DIY video, when I chose to crop a maxi length pinafore to a midi length instead of a mini length, I was doing that because I tend to wear longer skirts more because they're more practical. And I think that is still true. I probably will wear longer skirts more than shorter skirts even this spring. This definitely isn't me being like, I like short skirts now instead of long skirts. It's more just that for quite a while, mini skirts haven't even really been in the mix at all. So I'm excited to try to add a mini skirt or two back into my regular outfit rotation after they've been like on the bench for a while, to use a sports metaphor. That felt so unnatural coming out of my mouth. Can you tell I know nothing about sports? All right, the next fashion element that I am super excited about for this spring definitely is part of a larger trend, but it also feels very aligned with my style. It is playful and unexpected use of color. If you watch my channel, you know my style is already pretty colorful, but I think it's been a little more subtle and muted lately, like over the winter. I use colors, but I also use a lot of muted tones, earth tones, neutrals, etc. But lately, I have been feeling way more drawn to use brighter, bolder swaths of color. Brighter colors, larger surface area of colors, and also combining colors together, especially in unexpected ways. I feel like so many people are talking about color blocking and like unexpected color pairings right now in fashion. It's in a bunch of trend listicles, and I've definitely enjoyed seeing it and found it quite refreshing and inspiring. But the thing that really got me into wearing more colorful outfits was actually my own video I made a few weeks ago on using fashion and your outfits to improve your mood, where I talked about wearing color and the psychological impacts of bright colors in your outfit. If you missed that video, I think it was a really fun one. I think you'd like it, and I will link it up there if you're interested. Anyway, thinking about how much color really can improve your mood, and then looking at so many inspo images of these outfits with these swaths of bold, energetic color totally flipped a switch for me and inspired me to start trying to use more bright, playful, energizing color in my own outfits. Since making that video, I have been wearing and loving more colorful outfits. And I've also found myself drawn to even more colorful style inspo. I'm particularly drawn to color combos that feel pretty bold, but maybe also sort of strange or less obvious. You might not immediately think to pair them together, but that's what makes the combo so dynamic and interesting and a little more dimensional. I'm especially thinking color combos that are maybe at different levels of shade or saturation. So like a bold, highly saturated, medium range color, not super dark or super light, paired with more of a bright, light pastel shade. Or maybe a really clear, bright, saturated, but lighter pastel with a more muted, desaturated, medium range earth tone. I hope this all makes sense. I'm just thinking like things that feel a little less obvious than two brightly saturated standard colors together, like hot pink and bright orange, you know? This is sort of an interesting one as like a trend specifically because a lot of fashion reporting seems to be noting a trend in like unexpected color combos. But it's kind of hard to define what is expected or unexpected. And I think some of it maybe has to do with like inherent qualities of certain colors that make us more likely to pair them together. Certain combos that our brains naturally put together versus certain other combos that feel a little more unnatural, unexpected. But I also think a lot of what's expected or unexpected just has to do with what has already been trending recently, what has trended most noticeably versus what's just like new. So obviously like the new color combos that are trending are going to be unexpected because if they were expected, they wouldn't be like new trends. Does that make sense? And even those more unnatural, unexpected color combos can become expected if they become trendy enough and then they're familiar and we've all seen them a million times and we start to expect them. I don't know. I just think this is interesting to consider. But I guess the point is right now I'm just feeling drawn to bold color combos in general, particularly combinations that don't already feel super familiar to me. Okay, this also feels like a great time to talk about Kina and Tam, today's sponsor, because their whole vibe aligns perfectly with this theme of playful, colorful, creative, unexpected style. Kina and Tam is a small indie slow fashion brand. All their products are manufactured in BSCI compliant factories, and they only release 15 to 20 new styles per year, all of which are so cool and creative and special. If you're an OG viewer, you know that Kina and Tam was the first sponsor I ever worked with on this channel, and I continue to love working with them because of their responsible approach and the way their clothing consistently delivers quality, comfort, and just the most whimsical, creative, well-considered design. I'm especially partial to their 100% cotton knits, like this new piece, the Countryside Sweater, but I'm consistently impressed with the comfy fits and fabrics of their pieces across the board, and I have several pieces from other partnerships I've done with them over the years that I continue to wear and love. Their latest collection also features the Villager jacket and the Villager vest, both of which have that great comfy boxy shape I love and are perfect for those colorful outfits I'm craving. I also just got the Tinker dress from their Rebloom collection. It's 100% cotton, very thick and sturdy. I am in love with this silhouette. This is the perfect spring dress, I think. And I also have a discount code with them. So if you want to add some unique and playful, yet comfy and wearable pieces from a cool, responsible small business to your closet, definitely check them out and use my code LIZ20 for 20% off. I hope you love their pieces as much as I do. Okay, next we have what was actually one of my biggest trend predictions for 2026, in part because I'm super excited about this for 2026. It is lace accents. Specifically, I'm thinking like frilly lace trim, but also other flowy lace layering pieces or accessories, just like fluttery, swooshy lace somewhere in the outfit to add a bit of extra movement and texture. Honestly, this one was actually kind of inspired by one of my personal styling clients a couple months ago. If you don't know, I do virtual personal styling through the app Index. There is always a link to learn more or book my services in my description if you're interested. Anyway, this client shared an inspo board that had several photos with like frilly or lacy white trim poking out from under like a top or a jacket or a sweater. And I was just captivated by this look. I was so taken with it, so inspired by it. Shout out to my clients for having amazing taste. Something about it just immediately appealed to me. And ever since then, I have been thinking that some flowy lace trim poking out from under my top would low-key improve every outfit. In fact, I've been feeling this so much that in last week's little thrift flip DIY video, I did a little thrift flip making a lace trimmed layering tank top specifically with this vision in mind. So I feel like I'm going to be wearing this nonstop this spring. I have been trying to figure out what is so appealing to me about this, and I'm honestly not totally sure. I think I've already been very into texture, detail, movement, and interesting shapes lately in fashion. And I think this is an accent that can often combine a lot of those elements together. Obviously, lace is inherently detailed and textural, and when it's used for flowy or ruffly trim, it can also add that movement or an interesting shape to an outfit. Plus, then that ruffly shape also adds even more detail and texture. I also think it just feels like a very fresh, unexpected accent to me right now. It's something I've started to see hints of on my Pinterest, but it's not something I've been seeing really at all in real life or even on a lot of the fashion influencers I follow. So something about it's just really refreshing. It's a great unexpected bit of contrast and detail. It feels creative, but it's also still quite convenient, comfortable, and easy to wear, which is also key. I think my style also leans a little androgynous, maybe a little tomboyish, especially in like my real life everyday outfits. And so I think something else that's really appealing and refreshing to me about this is that it can create more contrast and juxtaposition in that sort of gender neutral or menswear type outfit. I mean, at this point, a sweater, pants, and boots, which is what I wear most days this time of year, doesn't read as menswear to me, but it also doesn't read as feminine. So some lace trim or a lace accent is just, again, a really fresh, unexpected addition that adds a bit more friction and tension in the outfit and makes it more dynamic. Spring fashion also tends to lean a little more feminine. You know, there's the florals, pastels, frills, etc. So because this lace detail can read a little more feminine, I think it can also work great to make an outfit potentially read a little more spring, especially in the time of year when you want to dress springy in vibe, in tone, but it's still like cold outside. Again, a sweater, but then with a little lace trim poking out. Perfect. Okay, this next look I'm loving for spring, I think I also talked about last spring, and it might sound kind of dumb how obvious it is, but I was loving it then, I'm loving it again for this year, and this was also sort of a part of my 2026 trend predictions, so I have to include it. I am so excited to channel gardening vibes this spring. I'm thinking kind of outdoorsy, but also kind of homey and also kind of romantic. It's a romanticized, stylized version of gardening for sure. Like if I'm doing actual yard work, I'm not wearing this, but I'm just loving a look that feels like pretty and whimsical, but with those touches of earthiness and practicality that make it feel more down to earth and maybe a little more androgynous. As discussed with my last item, I love a mix of more masculine or gender neutral items with more feminine items in my outfit. Heavy air quotes on all of those descriptors because, you know, it's all made up, but you get it. For this look, I'm thinking clogs and boots in earthy brown tones. I'm thinking brimmed straw hats or bucket hats. I'm thinking hair bandanas, for sure. My most tried and true whimsical yet down-to-earth accessory. This outfit actually is pretty well aligned with sort of my vision for this. I also love the idea of like baggy practical shorts with a cute cozy chunky sweater, or even baggy worker cargo pants with a light little frilly blouse on top. Again, we're talking that sweet spot of style that combines whimsy and femininity with more down-to-earth practical elements, all with an earthy overtone. I don't have a ton more to say about this because I feel like we've talked about it before. I'll link last year's fashion and trends I'm loving for spring video up there in the cards because I talked about it more in there. I'm just still loving this. I think it's the perfect vibe for spring, and I will be wearing it for picnics, the farmers markets, and just daily activities to add a little sense of earthy whimsy to my life. Additionally, this was also kind of in my 2026 trend predictions. I am also very excited to channel the garden itself this spring. This is, in a way, even more obvious for spring than gardening vibes. Just straight up garden vibes. We are doing florals for spring. Famously not groundbreaking, but I don't know. I haven't really been into those super classic garden-esque spring motifs like florals and bright pastel colors and stuff in the past several years. But this year, I'm finding the idea of looking like a flower or a butterfly, or maybe a little garden fairy, extra appealing. I'm especially thinking more of like sort of a wild, overgrown garden rather than a super perfectly manicured one, or even like a mystical forest clearing that just happens to have a bunch of flowers and like overgrown rose bushes. Basically, I'm thinking nature, a little more unruly, but specifically also with a lot of flowers, which doesn't always necessarily occur truly in nature. So, overgrown garden. Obviously, this includes florals, floral patterns, floral motifs. I'm especially thinking in like very lush colors and sort of organic, messy shapes versus a more uniform ditzy floral. Again, we're thinking messy and overgrown, not prim and proper. And I'm also thinking maybe other plant motifs, vines, grasses, leaves. You know what other plants are. The bright colors we talked about earlier totally fit into this, especially combined with earth tones. And I'm also feeling very into bug motifs as part of this look. Butterflies, beetles, Snails, which aren't really bugs, but they feel aligned with this vibe. Bugs are part of what makes nature and gardens alive. And also one of those things about it you can't really tame or control, so they also feel aligned with the sort of wild, overgrown whimsy of it all. Even sort of round, puffy, yet drapey silhouettes can fit into this. They almost look like tulips sometimes, or flowers or buds waiting to bloom. I am very into any look that looks like it could possibly be fairy clothes made out of rose petals, you know? Petal-shaped clothing is in for spring 2026. I think that's also part of what is inspiring to me about butterfly motifs. Like, I keep thinking about this shirt that like looks like a butterfly wing, and that also looks like, you know, could be like fairy clothes. Clothes that are earthy in a way that makes it look like you are like a tiny creature that is part of this large earthy landscape, this garden. You're just like a little inhabitant of the garden. Really into that. All my girls who were obsessed with fairies as elementary schoolers, rise up, sound off in the comments. You know what I'm talking about. God, I wish I wanted to be a fairy so bad. All right, the next style I have found myself really drawn to when thinking about what I want to wear this spring is this style of tank top. I'm going to describe this as sort of a subtle Babydoll peplum. I'm really just picturing a tank top with a generally flowy shape throughout, but also specifically with a flowier flare at the bottom. I have no idea if this one is a bigger trend or if it's just me, but I have been seeing it quite a bit on Pinterest. And overall, I think I'm drawn to this silhouette for a few reasons. One, it's great for layering. It is both sleeveless and baggy, which makes it the perfect item to layer over other sleeved items. That's also something I've seen a lot with these tops on my Pinterest, and I'm super into this look. Two, I also tend to really love outfit and garment silhouettes that have more volume on the bottom and less volume at the top. I love a look that's like shaped like a triangle. I think it's because I have somewhat wide shoulders in proportion to the rest of my body, so I love silhouettes that balance that by adding more visual weight at the bottom. And this tank top silhouette is basically designed to do exactly that. And three, the third reason I'm drawn to the silhouette is I've also realized almost all my tank tops are just like simple, stretchy, totally skin tight fitted tanks, which I also love and wear a ton in the warmer months. They're a great basic for me, but they feel more like a basic than a top, you know? And then I do have a few more elevated tank tops that feel like tops, but none of those quite have the ease and the comfort that my, you know, stretchy fitted tank tops provide and that this flowier silhouette would provide. Basically, I love how this style combines wearable comfiness and a whimsical, intentional feel all in one piece. I love it stylistically, and I'm also sort of missing it in my wardrobe. So I'm really hoping to add this style of top to my closet this spring. Maybe even sew it myself. This feels like a sewing project that I could totally do. And I have recently thrifted some fabrics that I'm excited about and have to actually get sewing with. So this could be the perfect project. Also, side note, I noticed when I was seeing Pinterest images of this style, the suggested search terms that were like popping up next to it were a lot of phrases like Japanese street style, Japanese style inspo, Japanese summer style, etc. So I'm wondering if maybe this is more of a trend in Japan. Maybe it's going to make its way over to the US. Maybe it's already starting to. I don't know. And I wish I knew more about Japanese fashion and like Japanese street style culture. But shout out Japanese street style for providing this gorgeous inspo that I am really drawn to right now. Finally, the last look I am loving right now is a little more creative. I might not even end up ever finding or wearing this, but I am just loving the look of it. It is shoes with strange cutouts. This definitely is part of a larger trend. I'm specifically thinking of a lot of recent Tory Burch shoes, and also the return of the peep toe on the runway in new and funky forms. But I think the versions I'm most drawn to are a little outside of the trendier styles. I am particularly loving this for boots. I'm also loving shoes with sort of strange cutout pieces or layers that are like pieced together or layered on top of each other. This is hard to describe, but I hope the pictures are helping. And I'm also very into lace-up details on shoes where the lacing is just sort of right on top of the skin, rather than like laces of shoes with the tongue behind it, like you would normally find. This is something I didn't even realize I was loving until I was looking through my recent Pinterest saves to sort of figure out what I've been drawn to lately. And there were so many of these freaky, funky little shoes with strange layers or cutouts or unexpected exposed skin that I was like, there is something really fresh and compelling to me about this, clearly. I think the thing about shoes is they're one of the most practical things we wear. And they're one of the things that needs to be the most practical. Like an impractical shirt is never going to be as impractical for living life as impractical shoes. But I think because of this need for practicality, shoes are then much more limited in their design, both functionally and then visually as a byproduct, which is exactly what makes these strange and whimsical and creative, interesting, unexpected designs so particularly appealing and delightful. Because they're so unexpected, they're out of the norm, they're not something we're really seeing or wearing regularly. I think I'm also particularly drawn to unexpected lacing and cutouts because it is unexpected and creative, but not necessarily inherently impractical. Like, this can still be comfortable and wearable if it's not too cold or wet outside. Sandals, for example, often have lacing and cutouts. And I mean, the weather conditions for like a boot with the lacing and cutouts might be a little more limiting, but these could still be totally comfortable. They're not like shoes you couldn't even wear and walk around in, you know? And they also feel creative while still looking like shoes, which I think is something I need in a creative shoe. When shoes are so creative, they don't even really look like shoes anymore. That sort of loses me. So this is like my perfect in-between. Also, I remember cutout leather boots that were like really doing the rounds on Tumblr back in the day. And they had such a chokehold on me. I wanted these boots so bad. I think these were also maybe some sort of trend back then, but I never saw anyone wear them in real life. I just saw them on Tumblr and was like, I love this. So clearly something about this just speaks to me. Like I said earlier, I think it's pretty unlikely that I'll actually end up acquiring any of these because finding a pair that is practical and comfortable and looks just how I want them to at my price point, probably secondhand, seems incredibly unlikely. And I'm totally fine with that. But hey, if I somehow come across some, I will be thrilled to give them a try. And for now, I will just let them inspire me to get creative in unexpected places. All right. That's everything. I feel like there's a really unified theme to this one. This is the season of whimsy, playfulness, and ease. And I am just feeling so energized by that vision. I'd love to hear in the comments if any of these trends or styles are speaking to you this spring or what you're most excited to wear in this upcoming season. And I heard if you do leave a comment, watch another video, like maybe one of the ones I mentioned throughout this video, which will be linked here and also up there. And subscribe. Spring will come just a little bit faster this year.